Welcome, gentlemen, scholars, and dancing wizards. Today, I continue my adventures of 100%ing Skyrim on survivor mode. I wanted to proffer up to you a thought. More of a thought stream that I had that turned into a very delightful meditation, pondering, other words that make me sound smart. Anyway, so some warranted background. Lately, I've been rewatching some of my all-time favorite movies. So, Lord of the Rings, movies of Bruce Lee, Dark Crystal, Labyrinth, all that stuff. Really into fantasy, really into martial arts, and so on. One of those movies is Conan the Barbarian from 1982. Now, yes, there's the other ones like Conan the Destroyer. Love that one too. But, you gotta start from the beginning. And of course, these are with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Also, I'm a Christian. Ooh, sorry. Big, shocker there. Shout out to my boy Boaz, by the way. Had one of the best romance stories in the Bible. Bagged the baddie, by the way. Just saying. It was awesome. Anyway, with that said, I went to the gym because that's where I go to meditate and get gains. Or in the words of Arnold Schwarzenegger, which I take that to heart. So, as I was at the gym, there was a certain scene from the first Conan movie from 1982 that just kept playing in my head over and over again. And it's this one right here. Now, aside from the dope-ass posing, because I want to look like that in my dreams, I don't know why this moment stood out of him looking at his hand, flexing his hand, but then I started thinking of the context. So, James Earl Jones, at the beginning of the movie, spoilers, killed Conan's family when he was a boy, because he was looking for something called the Secret of Steel, or the Riddle of Steel. Later, when Conan has the chance to get his revenge, he's beaten by Darth Vader, Thusila Doom, and this is what Mufasa says, basically.
I wish to speak to you now.
It is my butthole. Wow. Sorry.
Serpent. Rexor says that you gave it to a girl. Probably for a mere night's pleasure. What a loss. People have no grasp of what they do. You broke into my house, stole my property, murdered my servants and my pets, and that is what grieves me the most. You killed my snake. Thorgrim is beside himself with grief. He raised that snake from the time it was born.
You killed my mother. You killed my father. You killed my people. You took my father's sword.
It must have been when I was younger. There was a time, boy, when I searched for steel. And steel meant more to me than gold or jewels.
The riddle of steel.
Yes. You know what
This
it
part is
don't you,
key.
boy?
Pay close attention to what
Shall
he's
I tell
about to
you?
say, because this is what I've been ruminating on.
It's the least I can do. Steel isn't strong, boy. Flesh is stronger. Look around you. There, on the rocks. That beautiful girl. Come to me, my child. That is strength, boy. That is power. The strength and power of flesh. What is steel compared to the hand that wields it? Look at the strength of your body, the desire in your heart. I gave you this. Such a waste. Contemplate this on the tree of woe.
There are so many
Crucify him.
key moments here. First of all, great performance. Okay? I love this movie. Anyway, from when he's giving his explanation of his answer to the riddle of steel, I feel like King Lear here in this moment is both correct and wrong. The ultimate conclusion that he has is wrong, but it's the way he's interpreted the answer of the riddle of steel, and he's just interpreted it in an evil way. That original clip that I showed you earlier, I had to mute it, by the way, sorry. I didn't want to get to risk of copyright because of the music, but you see Conan flexing his hand the same way that Thucydides does. When he's explaining, he actually does take his advice. He takes the villain's advice and he ponders what he says. He actually thinks about it. And he comes to his own conclusion, finding the true answer to the riddle of steel. Hey, and if you're looking at my gameplay of Skyrim here a little too closely, look, yes, I just did get wrecked. I'm playing on, I think, expert difficulty. This is my first time playing survival mode, and I don't want to be a stealth archer. I'm trying to go with this mage only run type thing. All right, leave me the frick alone, okay? You know, it can be hard, Skyrim, but it can be hard. That's what she said. Leave me alone. Anyway, back on topic. So, The central philosophical conflict in this movie. So, Conan's father, Terminator's father, teaches that steel is the only reliable force. Okay? And I think for a long time, Commando doesn't. He misinterprets that himself. Now, Thusa counters that the power of flesh or control over people and their will is greater. That's where he gets the answer to the riddle wrong. Is yes, he is correct, but it's the power of flesh is stronger. What is steel compared to the power of the hand that uses it? But he takes it in an evil way by saying that it's control over other people's free agency, other people's will. And Conan ultimately realizes that steel is useless without the will, or the soul, or the mind behind it. And it's a lesson learned as he goes throughout the movie and forges his destiny. What Vice Admiral Jim Greer misses here is that steel is referring to how do I put it? I'm going off script here. It's referring to the literal metal, but it's referring to Conan himself. He is the steel, which ties into alchemy and things like that, where you are the philosopher's stone. You're not just making something from with scientific method and chemistry. You are changing yourself. You are the steel. And then at the gym, as I was considering all of this, and I had that moment when Conan is looking at his fist as he's practicing with the sword and he's posing like a sexy man. I thought more about the riddle of steel myself, and my mind went to Psalms 66:10. Like I said before, I'm a Christian, and this is where this comes in. Psalm 66:10 says, "For thou, O God, hast proved us. Thou hast tried us, as silver is tried." And I didn't fully, okay, well, why am I thinking of that? And it took me on more of a big tangent that led me to more verses, like Malachi 3:2-3, which uses a powerful symbolism of the Messiah's coming like a refiner's fire and like fuller's soap. And I started to draw the parallels between what the riddle of steel is, what the psalmist means by silver. Why are we tried like silver in a refiner's fire, like Malachi says? And I realized, well, a smith will separate the precious metal from the dross, which in nature they're usually found mixed, but through the process of great heat and through the hammering on an anvil, the dross is brought to the surface, removed, to make the silver or the steel pure. And in order to bring the mass into a fluid state, you need a refiner's fire. And I was like, that's the key. That's what the riddle is referring to. And of course, down this rabbit hole, I also thought about like, well, what others have to say. And so this was more me at the gym, hitting a set, going as heavy as I can, staring at my hand, like I was on some sort of LSD, and then pulling up resources that I like to keep on open tab on my phone, and I started looking up, like what philosophers might be able to add to this. And of course, the imagery of fire and metal and sculpting and tempering metals is, it's all over the place. I can never get this name right. Heraclitus famously identified fire as the primary element and the guiding principle of Logos and of the world. He viewed the universe as an ever-living fire, and he drew direct parallel between fire and metal, stating that fire is like gold. You can exchange gold for all kinds of goods, and fire can turn into any of the elements. So it was the great medium for him. The symbolism of strife, of heat and nature that allows things to become their opposites and allows things to change. Fire is the element of change. Yes, destruction, but also change. Change through breaking down and removing the dross, the things that you don't need, that are useless, that hold you down, impurities. I also read about, in the Pythagorean tradition, they used very harsh imagery to describe the necessity of spiritual discipline and the removal of vice. And they used the imagery of these things like greed and other non-essentials being cut off with fire and sword. And of course, gotta look at my boy Marcus Aurelius. And he talks about scouring off the rust, and how contemplating the stars and transmutation of elements helps to do that. And I went down a long rabbit hole. Of course, I love Confucianism, so I started looking at what he had to say, and Mencius as well, about gold and jade, and then, of course, I was like, well, I want to read, Bushido because I'm a weeb, but, every time I read about, discipline and endurance without groan, transforming you into a samurai. I feel like such a dork. Anyway, I love that stuff, but I feel like a virgin. Anyway, Bushido, the samurai code. Anyway, back to Conan. So, with all this framework, hopefully you can see kind of where I'm going here as I conclude. But for Conan, all of these trials and these hardships that he goes through are a testing intended to strengthen him, to make him more of an individual with a greater purpose. And the ultimate answer to the riddle of steel that I started to come to a realization to at the gym as I was pushing my body, and I felt the burn of the muscle, and I felt this refining that I was pushing myself through. I felt that will and conviction are superior to the physical weapon, and that Thucydides was right, that it depends on who is holding it. But what he misses is it's how you use it then. Steel is nothing without the hand that wields it. Psalm 66:10 echoes this, and by focusing on the soul as the precious metal that's being perfected, suggesting that the steel of one's spirit, or the silver that you are being refined as, is what truly matters. Strength through suffering. Both concepts celebrate the idea that both concepts of Thusaladum and what Conan comes to celebrate the idea that suffering is not merely destructive, but it's transformative. It's just, well, Conan uses his strength for vengeance and then later to protect others. Psalms presents it more as a means to achieve a deeper spiritual resilience and maturity, if that makes sense. And then on the opposite side, we have Thusaladum, who just takes it, this good principle, and takes it in a completely evil way. Which for me, as a philosophical point, is like, well, you can have a true principle, but then it can be interpreted in varying degrees of ways. But then I got brought all the way back around to my own answer with Psalms. A silversmith heats silver to remove dross. And how he knows that it's pure is when he could see his reflection in the metal. And then I thought of this. 1 John chapter 3, verse 2. Beloved, now are we the sons of God, and it doth not yet appear what we shall be. But we know that when he shall appear, we shall be like him, for we shall see him as he is. End quote. Christ is the smith. Christ treats us like silver to remove impurity so that he can see himself in us. Like a silversmith sees himself in pure, heated, treated silver. We shall be like him, for we shall see him as he is. When we look at Christ in the last days, we will see him as he is, because he will see himself in us reflected back. To me, that is the answer to the riddle of steel. And of course, also, it was a way for me to, push myself at the gym. Sorry if this was a little off the cuff, if it didn't make full sense. Let me know what you think. I only have smattering of notes that I was writing down at the gym. I skipped over some stuff because it's incoherent, and a lot of it's misspelled because I'm an idiot and I don't know how to spell. Look at me expertly avoid this trap. Ooh, that's what I'm talking about. Listen, okay? I'm working hard on this playthrough of Skyrim. This is my first playthrough of Skyrim where I'm fully 100%ing the game, alright? I've never 100%ed the game. I'm going to do every side quest. I'm going to do every main quest. I'm even doing stuff that aren't even quests. You know all the Easter eggs in the game? Like the Pac-Man reference, the King Arthur references. I'm treating Skyrim as a tourist. I'm going to be taking screenshots of every single Easter egg, alright? I'm going to do a bunch of, side quests that aren't actual quests. So, and it's hard, especially because I'm playing at a really high difficulty. I'm not good at games. Leave me the hell alone. Anyway, let me know what you think of my answer to the Riddle of Steel, my interpretation of Conan. And it needs, pun intended, it needs refining, of course. It's more of just my ranting thinking at the gym. Anything to distract me from leg day that ultimately ends up as another chest and arms. Anyway. Love you guys, bye!